Display me on the display name Manmera. చేస్తాను చేసినట్టు వచ్చింది రాలేదు డిస్ప్లే లేకపోతే మనం చేయకూడదు
Shall we start, sir? Shall we start with the?
Yes, you can start. You can start.
Yeah. I request to stand up all for the invocation song.
బ్రహ్మమనగా వేరే పరదేశమున లేదు, నీలోనే ఉంది చూడన్నావు తరచి. అంధవిశ్వాసాలు అనగదొక్కుడటల్చు గుణదోషములు మాకు ఓర్పుతో నేర్పి, ఆట వెలదిక రసనపై నాట్యమాడితివి పదిలంగ గుండెలు కొలువు తీరిన మౌని. యోగివే మన నీకు వందనం, విశ్వవిఖ్యాత కవి నీకు వందనం. యోగివే మన నీకు వందనం, విశ్వవిఖ్యాత కవి నీకు వందనం. క్రమశిక్షణతో మాకు చదువులెన్నో నేర్పి, కర్తవ్య దీక్షను మాలోన మేల్కొలిపి, ప్రజలందరికీ దివ్య ఫలితాలు అందించ మానవత్వపు దారిలో మన్ను నడిపించి, భావి భారత శిఖర కిరణమై వెలగమని మా లక్ష్య పదములు విజయాలు కూర్చి, అమ్మ మనసున తీపి అమృతము కురిపింప తేనియలు మా నోట ఒలికిల్చు మా తల్లి.
విద్యాలయం నీకు వందనం, విశ్వ ఆత్మబంధువు నీకు వందనం. విద్యాలయం నీకు వందనం, విశ్వ ఆత్మబంధువు నీకు వందనం. యోగివే మన నీకు వందనం, విశ్వ కవితాత్మిక నీకు వందనం. విశ్వ కవితాత్మిక నీకు వందనం, విశ్వ కవితాత్మిక నీకు వందనం.
A warm welcome to all for the webinar. And Professor Janardhan Garu, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Yogi Vemana University, Professor K. Krishna Reddy Garu, the Principal, Professor Srinivas Garu, Vice Principal, Professor Venkata Subbaya Garu, the Registrar of the University, Professor T. Ram Prasad Reddy Garu, the Dean of Social Science, Dr. G. Parvati Garu, the Head, Department of Political Science and Public Administration. Dr. P. Pramila Margaret, the Associate Professor, Department of Political Science, and Dr. Vedai, Dr. Ramaya, Dr. Damodar, scholars, students, and welcome to you all. And we have today, we have a distinguished speaker, Professor Madan Mohan Jewel, who is a former Vice Chancellor. He is well known as a founder of Neonomics School of Thought and is superannuated professor of Kurukshetra University. He has 44 years of teaching and 17 years of administrative experience, including Vice Chancellor. Sterex University, Gurugram, Jagannath University, Jaipur, Director cum Vice Chancellor Rajiv Gandhi National Institute of Youth Development, Siripuram, an institute of national importance appointed by the President of India, Pro Vice Chancellor Veer Kunwar Singh University, ERA, State University of Bihar, Dean of Colleges and Social Science, Chairman, Department of Economics and Department of Journalism at Kurukshetra University. He has worked as an advisor, Public Finance, 6th State Finance Commission, Haryana. He is a researcher, guide, orator, prolific writer, and experienced in educational governance in universities under state, center, and private sectors. He is a recipient of 2 gold medals for standing first class, first in MPhil Economics and PG degree. Dr. Jewel has international recognition. He was the first ICCR, Indian Council for Cultural Relations, chair professor in South Korea at Konkuk University of Foreign Studies, Seoul. He is bestowed upon the honor of Ambassador for Peace by the Universal Peace Federation, adjunct professor at School of Indic Studies, Institute of Advanced Studies, Dartmouth, USA. Dr. Jewel was conferred Rotary Foundation Award for International Outstanding in 1983, which provided him with opportunity to be India's representative in USA, UK, and Canada. He has also been in South Korea, Sri Lanka, Australia, Norway, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Nepal. He is a life member of International Film and Television Club of AAFT. He is honored with Global Leader in Higher Education Award 2021 by AKS Education. At the National Front, Professor Jewel was honored in 2018 with the Dr. S. Radhakrishna Education Excellent Award by the Indian Institute of Oriental Heritage, Kolkata. Nehru Yuva Kendra Sangadan and National Service Scheme, Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, Government of India. He is a member of the Board of Governance for the Academy of Grassroots Studies and Research of India from 2021 onwards. One of the distinct honors a professor involved in research can have in the publication of book Economics, a Research Journey with Professor M.M. Jewel, edited by Dr. Pradeep Chauhan and published by VK Global Publications. His area of research in economics of human resource development and Indian economy. He has 478 publications, including 5 books, 1 monograph, 120 journal research papers, 38 chapters in edited books, 60 conference proceedings, and 254 print media articles to his credit. He has successfully guided 25 PhDs and 25 MPhil scholars. He has completed 2 research projects. He has established his credential in economic journalism and development communication. Professor Giol has served as the editor of KUK Research Journal of Arts and Humanities and Journal of Haryana Studies, in addition as a chief editor of Kautilya. He is one of the editor board of Finance India. He has drafted the intellectual property rights policy of Cook as nodal officer, IPR cell. He enjoys the status of spiritual citizen. Thank you so much, sir. And we have learned a lot of things from your brief profile. And a warm welcome to you, sir. And here we have Dr. Parvati Garu, the head of the department. Dr. Parvati Garu, and head of the Department of Political Science and Public Administration. And we have our teaching assistants here, our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, speaking kind words about me. My PPT is visible, sir? Is my PPT visible? Hello? Are you able to listen me? Hello? Hello? Is there any issue? Hello? Are you able to listen me? Are you able to listen me? Is it? Professor Satish? Anybody else? Are you able to listen me? Should I start, Lokesh? Why people are not responding? Professor Satish? Are you able to listen to me? Why don't you respond? Hello. Yeah, you are able to you are able to listen me. Okay, okay, okay. So should I wait? I should wait, no? Yeah.
Hmm? Sir, now you can join.
Okay, I have already joined it. I am audible.
Yeah, sir. Yeah, you are audible.
Okay. Okay, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts to you. I'm speaking from Kurukshetra. Have you heard of him, Kurukshetra?
Sir.
Kurukshetra is known to the entire world for
Kurukshetra,
standing for
okay.
Mahabharata. I, being a citizen,
అది కొంచెం స్క్రీన్ కొంచెం
teacher and researcher of Kurukshetra, always say Kurukshetra as a place is the first ever university on the planet, because the objective of a university is to get knowledge, and the best possible knowledge has been
కొంచెం
given
అల్లరి
by Lord Krishna himself in the form of Bhagavad Gita. Let me tell you, Bhagavad Gita is a ism neutral, religion free treatise on management, relationship management, and welfare economics. With this note, let me come to the topic. Professor Satish, you have mentioned that it is Indian Budget 2023, whereas my presentation is Union Budget 2023-24, meaning thereby we must understand the difference between annual year and financial year. In my beloved country, our financial year starts on April 1st and continues up to 31st March. Therefore, we should think in terms of the union budget as a financial year, not as a calendar year, as you have mentioned while talking of the link of this webcom. Anyway, I have titled it as Perceptions of a Neonomist. Hopefully, you are aware of who is a neonomist, an economist who talks of economics of needs. Therefore, I would like to give my perception as a neonomist on the entire gamut of the budget proposals made by the finance minister on 1st of this. I wish to draw your kind attention that for incredible India, as an independent, non-violent democracy with integrity and amity, we have to understand Bharat. Ba means knowledge, Bharat means seeker, more than independent nation declared in August 1947, has been talked about in the English dictionaries. A close perusal of the proposals in the Union Budget 2023-24 of the size of rupees 4 lakh 50,000 for 45 lakh 3,097 crore by Finance Minister Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman in her speech of 58 pages spoken in 86 minutes reveals that the measures taken in the budget proposals were necessary but not sufficient for the economy of Swarnim Bharat towards 2047. You know, last year we were all in celebration mode. We were calling it Amrit Ka Azadi Ka Mahotsav. But now onwards, we are now thinking to enter into Swarnim Bharat towards 2047. Before that, we have a year, very important date, 2030, when we have to achieve sustainable development goals. Let me tell you, out of 17 targets, 5 are related with education. Therefore, quality of education have to be thought of properly for the entering into Swarnim Bharat. My proposition to express my thoughts is that the provisions are necessary but not sufficient to enter into Swarnim Bharat towards 2047. And to do that, I would like to tell you, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has done what? and what not. Why? Why not? When not? Where not? For whom? This question should ponder over the mind of every stakeholder of the economy, including consumers, producers, distributors, traders, policymakers, politicians, both in power and opposition. Then only we can give right perspectives to the functioning of Indian economy and the efforts being made by the finance minister in the budget proposal 2023-24. And let me tell you, to enter into Swarnim Bharat, we must perceive WWW as work without worries. Otherwise, it will be very difficult. Let me honestly tell you, people from BJP all are appreciating the budget. They call it balanced budget, growth oriented budget, whereas opposition says that it is not able to take care of many segments of the society. Now, as a teacher of economics, known as a neonomist, my duty is to go for a fair analysis by understanding, interpreting the things being talked about in the budget 2023-24. Budget 2023-24 has its implications for the society as a whole at all levels. Global society, we are giving leadership to G20 and we have to think it what we are doing for them. Not only that, we have to think of local society and a state level, and then I have conceptualized society as all minus I. I myself is not society, around me is society. And today, my society is the fraternity of teachers, scholars, and students of this your university is Yogi Vamana University, Kadapa. Meaning thereby, whatever I have to do, I have to make you understand what are the intricacies involved in the budget proposals 2023-24. And for that, we have to understand the actors in the Indian economy. There are four actors: consumers, producers, distributors, and traders. Professor Satish, when I was a student, I was told that producer is a hero, whereas now consumer is the hero. When we were taught producer as a hero, there was a law in economics: supply creates its own demand, which has become obsolete today. Today, the entire market is full of goods. There are no buyers around the world. Therefore, we have to come out with how this consumer is able to get goods and services. It is pertinent to mention here the global economy is suffering from recession, and that recession is not because of supply chain management, it is because of demand. People don't have purchasing power, people don't want to consume. Therefore, we have to understand how this consumer is able to get goods and services as heroine. As you know, in Bollywood and Hollywood, there is no story complete without the role of villain. I have a proposition to make that Finance Minister Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman is a villain of the Indian economy today. Let us see whether we are able to prove that she has been able to become a hero or not. BJP people are saying that she has proved to be a hero. But let us see whether she has done something for all the stakeholders of the Indian economy or not. For that, we have to understand the issues we are talking of. We must understand what is the budget size. Budget size means total expenditure. It has increased to rupees 45 lakh 3,097, and that increase is from the budget 2022-23. But the question is whether it is sufficient to take care of the inflation which is prevailing in our country between 6 to 7%, although measurement of inflation is based on a faulty methodology. You get the data every month. That is not a monthly rate of inflation. Practically, it is annual rate of inflation calculated monthly, meaning thereby, if you talk about the data we got in January, that was compared with January 22. Whereas we should buy your inflation rate. If we are interested to know inflation rate in January, it should be compared with December. So taking into account all these dimensions, we have to see whether this budget size is sufficient to enter into Swarnim Bharat as a preparatory thing for smooth functioning of the Indian economy. Most important indicator of the performance of any budget is fiscal deficit. Finance Minister has made efforts to reduce it to 17,86,816 crore, which comes out to be 5.9% of the GDP, which ultimately we have to reduce it to 4.5% of the GDP as mandated in FRBM Act. Another important indicator is revenue deficit, which is rupees 86,000 8,69,855 crores, that is 2.9%. And here I would like to tell you what is revenue deficit. Revenue receipts minus revenue expenditure, meaning thereby if we are able to spend something for generating revenue and that expenditure is more than the revenue received, that is not justified. Nowadays, income tax is contributing. There was a time when income tax expenditure used to be more than the revenue generated by income tax. So this is an example I wanted to justify what is revenue deficit. And this effective revenue deficit is rupees 4,90,867 crore. This is calculated by reducing this grants in aid for creation of capital assets from the revenue receipts. It's very important to tell you that when we were the students, we were talked of budget deficit. Budget deficit means total revenue, total expenditure. Revenue deficit means revenue receipts and revenue expenditure. And fiscal deficit is revenue receipts minus total expenditure. Therefore, we must understand all the conceptualizations of these deficits. Budget deficit has been shown as zero, meaning thereby it has been equated as a balance sheet that total revenue is equal to total expenditure. To me, as a student of economics, primary deficit is more important, and that is calculated by fiscal deficit minus interest payments, and that comes out to be 1,79,971 crores. That comes out to be 2.3%. To understand this, let me tell you, all kind of deficits, whether it is fiscal deficit, budget deficit, revenue deficit, primary deficit, or trade deficit. This is because of the coefficient of distrust in our economy. And by removing the coefficient of distrust, we can remove these all deficits. And to go further, let me tell you what is basically there in the budget 2023-24. Where from the rupees coming? This very important aspect of any budget. GST has proved to be a boon for the Indian economy. Now it is getting 70%. For all times to come, if you have to make a comparison, you can see whether we have increased GST from 2022-23 or not. And you will find that there is a marginal increase from 16% to 17%. So for corporation tax is concerned, it is 15%. Borrowing and other liabilities is 34%, meaning thereby it cannot be called a balanced budget. Any budget which is dependent on borrowing and other liabilities cannot be called a balanced budget, meaning thereby we are still dependent on borrowing, and we may become the victim of Cobra effect. If we have to go for public debt and all that, it becomes very troublesome for an economy. Income tax, yes, has started contributing 15%. Let me tell you, when I was telling to you about the revenue deficit, there was a time when the revenue coming from income tax used to be lesser than the revenue expenditure on the Department of Income Tax. That is conveys the definition of revenue deficit. But now income tax has increased, although the concessions given in that are not sufficient if at all we want to increase the income tax rate. Non-tax revenue, it is only 6%, whereas to my mind, it can be in double digit. If we are able to make use of user charges and free structure linked to consumer price index, you know, all the employees are getting ADA, compensated for inflation, but we have not been able to increase the user charges and fee structure. By doing that, we can increase the non-tax revenue to the double digit, and there is a scope of strengthening the budget proposals from this point of view by increasing the non-tax revenue. Union excise duty is only 0.07%. Custom duty is also very less, although number of concessions have been given custom duty. Non-debt capital receipt is 0.02%, meaning thereby, as an economist, it is our duty to tell to the audience that in the budget 2023-24, rupee is coming from where? In the budget proposals, there are 8 headings with total, and you have seen that how this 100 paisa is being contributed by GST, corporation tax, borrowing and other liabilities, income tax, non-tax revenue, union excise duty, custom, non-debt capital receipt. And honestly speaking, I'm not satisfied by rupee coming from, because 34% is dependent on borrowing and other liabilities. There is certainly a scope to strengthen our coming resources from different activities. So far, rupee goes. It's also very important. In every budget, it is we have to make an analysis. Rupee is coming from where and rupee is going where. And if you try to see that, its share in taxes and duties, it is 18%. And although under the Finance Commission we allocate resources, 42% are to be given to them, but because of certain recommendations of the Finance Commission, it has reduced. The most important thing in the expenditure is interest payments. 20% of the budget is going to interest payments. How we can think of entering into Swarnim Bharat when we have to pay 20% on interest payments? We are left with only 80% resources. Central sector schemes, 17%. Subsidies, 7%. Let me draw your kind attention that I'm very critical of subsidies. We have made people habitual of eating into subsidies. Subsidies are being misused and abused by many of the stakeholders in the economy. And I justify that we ultimately, if we want to enter into Swarnim Bharat, we should forego these subsidies. It should be brought to zero level. At the same time, the same money which is being given in subsidies, that can be given to a monetary authority for providing loans to genuine people at a zero rate of interest, meaning thereby for making them stand and start up, you can provide them loans on zero rate of interest if at all subsidies are reduced to zero. So far, centrally sponsored schemes are concerned, we have allocated 9 paisa. Finance Commission other transfers are 0.9, defense 0.8. Here I would like to argue that although we talk of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, we talk of Bharat as Bha means knowledge, Rat means seeker, we have to spend a lot of money on defense. I am critical of increasing the defense expenditure on the basis of external threat, although there are external threats. But I am worried that in my beloved country, threats are within more than outside threats, because we are having problem of terrorism, problem of corruption. All these problems are there. Unemployment is there, poverty is there, and from that point of view, we have to enhance defense expenditure, not from the point of view external threats, but internal threats. And that makes a case for enhancing the defense expenditure. Other expenditures have also been called 0.8%, and pensions is on a very considerable amount, it is 4%. Therefore, as a student of economics, we have to understand that rupee coming from where, rupee going to where, and here you can very well understand that the the allocation of resources is maximum to interest payments and central schemes, state share in taxes and duties, and all the other aspects. Now, let me come to the thoughts as a neonomist I talk about. My proposition as a student of economics, as a neonomist, economics of needs. I always say that the budget proposals were necessary for the vision of Swarnim Bharat towards 2047, but not sufficient. Meaning thereby, efforts made are to be considered in right perspective. And yesterday I was reading one article, editorial in Times of India, where it has been said that three features, including smart economics, confident politics, and credible fiscal numbers, are claimed in an editorial of Times of India, are to be understood, analyzed, and interpreted by the stakeholders in right perspective to justify whether the proposals are necessary for Swarnim Bharat or not sufficient. Let me honestly tell you, I have gone into the entire speech of the finance minister consisting of 58 pages, wherein she conceals more than reveals the intentions on the 7 priorities as the Saptrishi guided us through the Amrit Kal. Inclusive development. Everybody knows what is inclusive development. I believe that there are challenges in inclusive development, including careless people and useless people. Without mincing words, let me tell you, in my beloved country, there are many people who are careless, many people are useless. Now, how to make them careful and useful is a challenge for the government and all the people who are interested to justify inclusion development in my beloved country. Reaching the last mile, it's very important. Modi ji talks of Sabka Vikas, Sabka Saath, and for that we have to reach to the poorest of the poor, and the trickle down theory cannot work. We have to go to them directly, and that calls for infrastructure and investment, unleashing the potential green growth which is required from the point of view of maintaining environment. We have to be free from climate change. Yes, youth power is very important. Honestly speaking, as a teacher of economics as well as in educational governance, hopefully you might have read the National Education Policy 2020, where there is National Youth Policy also 2014. I think you are all students of political science and public administration. You might have read National Youth Policy 2014, and it has a mandate that we should involve youth into democracy and governance. Are we genuinely doing that? Is our National Education Policy 2020 is tuned with that National Youth Policy 2014? And so for the concept of youth development is concerned, that is from 15 to 29, is it really the demographic dividend we are talking of? So many things we have to understand, analyze, interpret if we talk about giving empowerment to youth, particularly not through just giving them degrees, as has been talked about in the National Education Policy. You know very well that after 1 year, they are going to get certificate. After 2 years, they are getting diploma, and after 3 years, they will get a degree. And that is basically confusing to me as a teacher, that how youth empowerment and youth power can be strengthened. Financial sector immunity booster for the health sector. You know, we have been a victim of COVID. We have seen lockdown, and many things have happened, but the allocations have been made for this, and it has to be understood. FRBM 2003 implemented half-heartedly for intergeneration equity in the fiscal management. Let me honestly tell you, when I was talking to you about the fiscal deficit, revenue deficit, primary deficit, the efforts are not sufficient, and the implementation of this act is half-hearted, and we have to be serious about doing certain things. Regarding the agriculture sector, you know very well, 2 years back, farmers were on agitation, and we have been able to find out the genuine concerns of the farmers. Here I would like to draw your kind attention that our farmers of our country are suffering because of villain FCI. FCI was created by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru without taking cabinet into confidence. Therefore, if we are seriously interested in solving the problem of farming community agriculture sector, we have to create storage capacity with them, which calls for winding up FCI, which is a villain. Finance Minister must explain the use of education cess collected from the income taxpayers for the effective implementation of National Education Policy 2020 with many challenges, including financing the states. Professor Satish, hopefully you are aware of education cess. You are paying education cess at the rate of 4%. Everybody is paying. And do you know that where it is being used and abused? There is underutilization also. And let me tell you, it is used only for IIMs and IITs. If at all, we have to implement National Education Policy 2020 by the states. There is a strong case for sharing education cess with the states, and educational institution should be provided with that. And the finance minister must have statement how it is being used. And many people, even the vice chancellor, do not know. If you conduct a study of 100 vice chancellors, you will find that out of 100, hardly 10 will be able to tell you how this education cess is being used in my beloved country. No vision of FM on gender budgeting. Although being women, she is a woman, President of India is women, they talk of giving a lip service to gender budgeting. They don't even understand what gender budgeting is. Gender budgeting is not merely allocating some amount to women and child development. Gender budgeting is that budgeting which ultimately leads to women empowerment. It may not directly be spent on women. Here I can give you an example that in most of the educational institutions, when you go to the office of the principal or a vice chancellor, you will find there is no urinal. Urinal is used by men, whereas western seats used by women. And when men uses the western seat, they spoil it. If at all we want to give neat and clean western seat to the women, we must have urinals in the offices of the vice chancellors and principals. Therefore, that expenditure which directly is spent on the use of men, but ultimately benefiting women, that can be called gender budgeting, and that should be done properly. And to implement the budget proposals in right perspective, any budget can be good. Goodness of the budget can be found out in terms of the allocation of resources, but that lies on implementation. For implementation of the budget proposals 2023-24, everybody, including the finance minister, must understand the canons of public expenditure given by Ambedkar. Ambedkar talks of canons of public expenditure in 1949 when he has given the functions of Comptroller and Auditor General. Therein he said that our policies and programs in budgets should be faithful to the intentions of the will of people. We should not be unfaithful to the people who have mandated us to rule the people. Similarly, economy and execution. We should use the wisdom. Wisdom can come from anywhere. So these canons are relevant to be there. So far middle class is concerned, our middle class stands motivated for Atam Nirbhar Bharat. Let me honestly tell you. People say that this budget is in favor of middle class. They have given some concessions partly to the income tax, but middle class is a victim of inflation more than anybody else. Poor people are not that affected by inflation because their basket of goods entirely different. Whereas rich people don't bother about the MRP. MRP is bothered about by the middle class. Therefore, middle class is the victim of inflation. Without controlling inflation, it is not possible for involving middle class for Atmanirbhar Bharat. Be vocal for local is going to miserably fail if at all we are not able to give the purchasing power to the middle class. MSP, minimum needs. Try to understand what I want to say. Minimum needs, support needs, and protect needs with wider domain of needonomics. Herein, let me explain you what needonomics is. Needonomics is the concept which I have developed from LIC logo. LIC logo says something down, written down the hands. Yogam Kshemam Bhamyam. Yogam Kshemam Bhamyam as claimed by LIC is your welfare is our responsibility. But if you ask them, what is this Yogam Chemam Bahamyam? They will say, USD pays the premium, we will take care of your life, and we will give you the benefit after death. After death, nobody is interested. But the moment you try to understand Yogam Chemam Bahamyam from Gita, shloka number 22 of chapter 9, where Lord Krishna says, Anyanya Chintanto Mayojana Payupaste, Tesham Nitya Viyuktanam Yogakshemam Bahamyam. Lord Krishna says, if you believe me completely, absolutely, and wholeheartedly, whatever you need, that will give you. Whatever you have, that I'll take care of. And that is the general promise of Lord Krishna. Therefore, we have to create need. Herein, let me tell you, the domain of Needonomics is Needo saving. Nido saving depends on Nido consumption. Nido consumption does not mean that we have to reduce consumption. Rather, create a need of the product. God has promised to fulfill it. Therefore, for Nido consumption is mindful consumption, judicious consumption. It may not be low level of consumption. Let me tell you, in my beloved country, the death rate of starvation is there, but the death rate of people having overconsumption is more than that, meaning thereby we have to reduce the death rate of overconsumption. In that sense, we have to call it Nido consumption, judicious consumption, mindful consumption. And we can have Nido insurance for Nido happiness through all these conceptualizations I talk of as Nido consumption, Nido saving, Nido investment, Nido production, Nido distribution, and Nido insurance for Nido happiness, Nido health, and Nido wealth. To do that, everybody from Prime Minister to Finance Minister and at a local level as a teacher and a student, a consumer, a producer, distributor, and trader, all of us need to become smart. Street smart is a person who understands the environment around. We have seen COVID, we have seen lockdown. In that scenario, we have to understand street smart, not simply the smart city or the smartphone. Therefore, as a stakeholder of the Indian economy, whether you are a consumer, whether you are a producer, whether you are a distributor, whether you are a trader, you have to basically become street smart. You have to be transparent. But transparency, although RTI have been talked about, but artificial intelligence is in play when we are going for e-banking, e-marketing. Amazon is playing a very important role. Artificial intelligence is in play. I, being a economist, appreciate artificial intelligence, its uses, but misuses are there. We have to stop the misuses. We have to stop the cyber crimes, and therefore, to take care of the cyber crimes, we need cyber laws. More than that, we have to be alert, aware, and awake with Vivek to artificial intelligence, which may be abused, misused. Responsiveness is required in my beloved country. In all the universities, you get the funds to conduct seminars and conferences, and they are to be finished by 31st March. When I started, I told to you that financial year in my beloved country starts on April 1st, which is a Fool's Day, and it finishes on 31st March, which has become a ritual day. On that day, we waste our resources like anything. It is pertinent to mention that almost all the ministries, including departments, are able to spend hardly 20 to 30% of the budget allocations till December. And from January to March, they are supposed to spend 70%. That's nonsense. There should be midterm appraisal, there should be monitored and evaluated, then only it should be given. And that calls for 24 hour, 7 days model. We have not to delay many things. We have to become action oriented, result oriented, not target oriented or wasting the resources in our budget proposal. We have to be moral, ethical. You know, Shubh Labh we talk about. Shubh Labh is that pure profit which we do it with genuinely. Arth with dharma. That is nothing but Needonomics I talk about. Therefore, ethics in economics is more important than anything else. Therefore, morality is the name of the game, if at all we have to implement the budget proposals in right perspectives during 23-24. And for that, we need to become simple in the strict sense of the term. Mahatma Gandhi used to say, simple living and high thinking. But I always say, simple living and no thinking. No thinking does not mean that we should not think. We should think of those things which are in our control. We should not think of those things which are not in our control. And that calls for emotional quotient development. Gone are the days when we were talking of IQ. IQ has become obsolete. IQ is just bajai machines, your smartphone. Therefore, we can be superior to these machines by increasing our emotional quotient. We will have to develop love oneself attitude. You know, love oneself attitude means we have to consider ourselves as a soul. Soul is immortal. Death rate is zero. Then why to wear fear of death? Fear is false evidence is appearing real. Therefore, we have to love oneself as a soul and nothing to worry about anything else. But at the same time, we have to develop health culture, which is the priority of the government in the Saptarishi. And for that, allocations are being made. But here, let me tell you, during the COVID era, we were talked of WHO health protocol. There was social distancing, no hugging, no shaking hand. That has given birth to internationalization of Indianization, a concept, I call it uh, Namaste and Namaskar, which has internationalized India. Mental level development. We need in our country to change our looks, actions, and words to make it law of the land. Let me honestly tell you, people here going for blame game, war of words, but it is our duty to change their attitude toward life. And I have an intuition that India is going to emerge as a world leader, not only basis of materialism, not only basis of economic indicators, but on the basis of spiritual strength. Let me tell you, the rate of progress in spirituality is faster than the rate of progress in materialism. And above all, spiritual quotient development, which calls for accepting spirituality as a reality of life. We are soul, and therefore we have to understand the science of soul. And with that, we have to become street and smart in case we want to enter into Swarnim Bharat. Honestly speaking, to make our efforts in the budget proposal sufficient, we have to become street smart and simple and understand, analyze, adopt nidonomics with nido consumption, nido saving, nido investment, nido production, nido happiness, nido wealth, and nido insurance is within reach. With these words, I'm grateful to you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you this morning. Thank you very much.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, audible.
Sir, thank you so much for your inputs, and we are happy for learning the basic words like spirituality, where entire social sciences is working on that towards the correction of human beings and individual level to community level to institutions. Hello, sir.
మీకు అభ్యర్థించిన సేవ ప్రస్తుతం అందుబాటులో లేదు आपके द्वारा अनुरोध की गई सेवा इस समय उपलब्ध नहीं है The service you have
లాగౌట్ అయిపోయినాడా ఉన్నారు.
Yeah. Now I'm back. In fact, there was some internet issue, and I have to go in for now on my mobile instead of using laptop. Yeah.
Sir, may now request Dr. Parvati Garu, Head of the Department, Political Science, to give a vote of thanks. Please, madam.
Better it's take some questions also. That will
Yeah,
be fine.
okay, sir, okay, sir. Before vote of thanks, may I request the students to have your questions, please? Questions? మీరు చదవండి, you can. ఇటువంటి మీరు మీరు అక్కడి నుంచి చదవచ్చు. మీ ఓన్ ఎక్స్ప్రెషన్ కావాలి, ఇటండి, నా ఒపీనియన్ కాదు. అక్కడ సార్తో అక్కడ కూర్చున్నా.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, central government was introduced 2020 NEP, sir, National Education Policy.
Yeah.
But government was merged 5+3+3+4 new school system. But already some villages, Andhra Pradesh government implemented this project, but people are opposed this, sir.
Yeah.
Already South India states, all states are opposed this new education policy, sir. But
I agree with you. Yeah. Let me honestly tell you, I was expecting more agitations on NEP than the farmers' agitation, but nobody has spoken.
Sir.
And many people, if I ask you, have you read entire national education policy, a 68-page document, even on higher education? I have been going to a number of places, and I believe people practically, they don't go for understanding the issues.
Sir,
So it is our duty practically to understand first what national education policy is.
sir,
So-
another question.
Yeah,
Sir, another question, sir.
yeah.
Union budget, total budget 45 lakh crores, sir, but central government do not giving any budget in bifurcation act, Kadapa steel plant and Polavaram project, national project, sir.
Hmm.
So in Andhra Pradesh, Uttarandhra and Rayalaseema is backward region, sir.
Hmm.
Government, central government union budget giving Karnataka state 5,300 crores, sir. Micro irrigation and upper Bhadra, sir.
Yeah.
So Rayalaseema and Uttarandhra, total AP and Telugu states was backward region, sir. Central government is not giving any budget, sir.
Only because of politics.
ఎన్నికలు ఉన్నాయి
మ్యూట్ చేసుకున్నారా ఆయన
Sir, please unmute.
Yeah, I'm already unmuted. Yeah.
Sir, my question, why was central government not interested to giving budget in Telugu states, sir?
It's a political question, not an economic question. Whereas it should be, justice should be as per the requirements. You know, they are not even giving proper allocations under the, what you call, they are not sharing GST. They are not even giving the proper amount under the finance commission. Therefore, the state governments have to join hands together for arguing certain things. Therefore, then only the central government can be compelled to give allocations for them for having implementation. I was referring to you that education says many people don't understand where it is being used and misused. Therefore, it is our duty in the states to make a hue and cry for getting claims on the resources being generated through the revenue receipts created from the states.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Anybody from
ఇస్తారా యు వాంట్ ఆస్క్ ఎనీ క్వశ్చన్
Emma Mero? Anybody from friends? Sir, it is a very wonderful lecture. We enjoyed a lot, and by shaping, giving the morality of understanding the development of individual and as well as nation as well. You have given a lot of inputs how the needs of the nation should be implemented carefully rather than negligence spending the budget irresponsibly. And thank you so much, sir. And may I now request Dr. Parvati Garu, the head of the department, to give a vote of thanks.
గుడ్ ఆఫ్టర్నూన్ సార్
Sir, sorry for the interruption.
వన్ మోర్
Sir.
క్వశ్చన్
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm Ravi Kiran, sir. I'm a research scholar, part-time PhD scholar from YVU. Professor Goyalji, I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, Professor, you're the second professor from Kurukshetra University that I am interacting. Previously, I interacted with Azmir Singh Malikji and public administration professor. And today, your speech is really enlightening and very useful for us. And particularly for the previous question, my colleague has asked, your concept needonomics may be the solution. So central government, should have taken up the concept of needonomics to allocate the budget also.
Not yet taken. They have accepted certain things. Although
Yes, yes,
things are
yes.
in pipeline. I was
They are
justifying
guided.
that they should change the financial year, for which
Yes,
Arun
sir.
Jaitley constituted a committee, but it has not been changed. Simply they have changed the date from 28th February to 1st of February. Otherwise, I was arguing that if our economy is an agricultural economy, we should start financial year from July 1st to June 30. Even our economy is a knowledge economy. Our academic year starts on July 1st and it finishes on June 30. And from that point of view, financial year also deserve to be changed. But
Yes.
so far Nidonomics is concerned, it is the sustainable approach. It is ethical, non-violent, and spiritual. And without this, our resources cannot be sufficient for entering into 2047 for Swarnim Bharat. I believe that all efforts are necessary but not sufficient without adopting Nidonomics as Nido consumption, Nido saving, Nido investment, Nido production, Nido distribution, Nido trade with globalization as think globally, act locally, not simply be vocal for local. Then only we can think of giving leadership to the entire world. Thank you very much.
As you rightly mentioned in your write-up also, the political parties and the system should overcome the greedonomics. They should overcome the greed in order to realize the need.
Yeah.
And Professor, my question is, see, in your during your talk, you mentioned that the entire subsidies should be reduced to zero. And what would be the impact on the middle class? As the budget also ignored the concept of middle class,
Yeah.
and they have not addressed the issues of middle class in the budget. And if the subsidies have gone, what would be the impact on the middle class in the entire country? Can you please throw some light on that
Yes,
aspect?
yes.
Thank you.
You have raised a very interesting question. Let me honestly tell you, in right perspective, we have four policies. One is monetary policy, another one is fiscal policy, we have manufacturing policy, and we have trade policy. If we try to understand individually and collectively, you will find that we waste our resources in the fiscal policy, directly spending on certain schemes, particularly subsidies. And subsidies are misused, abused. Those who deserve, they don't get. Those who don't deserve, they get it. Therefore, I was making a submission that if we are able to reduce it to zero and give the same money to the monetary authority for giving loans on a zero rate of interest, those who are interested to stand up, to go in for startups, go in for creating job opportunities for them, they have a right to get loans on zero rate of interest. Whereas government has schemes under differential rate of interest, but that is having a cap. They are not given sufficient. And there in manufacturing, we talk of modernization. Modernization cannot take place without sufficient funds. That calls for sufficient amount. In foreign trade policy, we have made a room for second-hand technology. So if we have to stop this second-hand foreign technology, we have to provide a proper amount of money to the manufacturing sector under monetary policy on a zero rate of interest. And for that, we have to create funds coming from the resources we are saving by reducing subsidies to zero. I have no hesitation to say that those people who are getting subsidies, they are misusing it. Those who have to get it, they don't get it. Therefore, with a stroke of pen, if we are genuinely interested to running economy on economic basis, there is logic and rationale to adopt zero subsidy and provide funds to the people on zero rate of interest so that modernization of manufacturing sector can take place and we can say no to the second-hand imported technology for the development of the nation. Then only we will be able to have Swarnim Bharat. Yes.
అనుకుంటా
Yeah.
Any questions from online participants?
సో ఐ హావ్ ఆయన ఇంకొకటి అడుగుతున్నారు
And he have another question, sir.
Yes.
He want to ask another question, I think.
Yeah, welcome. My perception as a neonomist, I am
Sir,
not a
I was
politician.
muted.
Therefore,
so
keeping
I
in
couldn't
mind
ask
these
another
needs,
question.
I have developed my thoughts.
Yeah, Professor, I have one more doubt. See, you mentioned about this NEP, New Education Policy, and rightly you pointed out that the cess we are paying. So 2% of cess for state education cess for state government and 2% for central government.
Yeah.
Really, we don't know where that money is going.
It
And
is being spent only
to,
on
to,
IIM and IITs.
no,
You
see,
put
is
it in
there
Google
any
search engine.
measure? Is there any,
You'll
see, in
find.
NEP, Professor, in NEP, we have, that access component, and we have that quality enhancement initiatives, and at the same time, future readiness as well. So why can't this amount that they are collecting under cess be diverted to realize the, that 2020 policy, new education policy? Are there any moves from the central government side to utilize that one for that purpose, or people like you may suggest to the central government?
I have already suggested, but the question is sometimes, if I'm speaking like that, I may not be called Rashtra Virodi. Therefore, we have to be very diplomatic in making use of the languages. But at the same time, we should ask for a white paper from the finance minister how this education cess is being utilized. This is available only to IIM and IITs. Nobody else is getting any money from education cess. Whereas the state governments have a right to get funds from education cess.
Thank you, Professor. Thanks the department for this opportunity.
So I have a question here, sir. Goyal, sir.
Yes,
Madam.
I have. No problem.
Sir, so kindly educate us more on the significance or importance of changing the budget year, the period.
Yeah, very important. You are an academician, you are professor of political science.
Yeah, sir.
At the present time, we have to prepare 3 reports. As a teacher, firstly, you prepare a report for calendar year. Our annual reports of the universities are prepared on academic year, starting from January 1st to 31st December. Financial year is starting on April 1st, which is a fool's day, and we continue wasting sources on 31st March. I was justifying that we must change. Many of the countries are having calendar year. You can go for calendar year, but if we claim our economy to be agriculture economy, we must change it to July 1st to June 30, because agriculture year starts on July 1st. Similarly, if we consider ourselves as a knowledge economy, then our academic year starts on July 1st and continues to June 30. Therefore, for the point of view of data on all educational indicators in our educational institutions, if it is done July 1st to June 30, there is no need of preparing 3 reports, one for calendar year, one for financial year, and one for academic year. Therefore, there is logic and rationale to change financial year from April 1st, which is a full day, and continues it to first March.
Meeting.
Thank you, sir.
The final call for last questions. Anybody?
Brother,
Sir,
I could have spoken more. I didn't speak because I wanted to give time for discussion.
Babu, anybody want to share your views? Please, madam, you can.
Meeting.
Sir,
Yes.
now I request Dr. Parvati Garu, the head of the department, to have a vote of thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It gives me immense pleasure to propose vote of thanks for today's webinar on perceptions of an economist. I take this opportunity to record my thanks to our chief patron, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Jinka Rangajanardhan sir, and the university authorities, our registrar, respected registrar, Professor YP Venkat Subbaya, Principal of Yogavana University, Professor K. Krishna Reddy sir, and Dean Arts and Humanities, Professor T. Ram Prasad Reddy sir, and others who have contributed. And I put special thanks to, propose my special thanks to Professor Madan Mohan Goyal sir, our distinguished speaker for today's webinar. Sir, I should submit to you that I am hearing this word needonymist, for the very first time, sir. And I thank you for enlightening us and my department on various things like Nido happiness, Nido health, Nido wealth, Nido savings, Nido insurance, Nido consumption, which is nothing but judicious consumption and mindful consumption, which is very much required in today's greedy world. Thank you so much, sir. And of course, yes, you have highlighted this, you have talked about sustainable development goals, and of course, out of which 5 are related to education. And thank you, sir, for enlightening us and our students on various issues of budget. So where we are getting the rupee, how we are spending the rupee, and where the government has failed to get a balanced budget. Yes, you have rightly pointed out that a budget which is based mainly like 34%, you said, the source is from borrowing and other liabilities, cannot be a balanced budget. Thank you so much for that, throwing light on that thing, sir. And yes, of course, you have rightly pointed about this one, subsidies, how subsidies are being misused and abused by, of course, both by the stakeholders, governments at the central and state level. And Sri Lanka is a living example. We have seen how it has failed. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you everyone for me, and I thank the press and others for making this event a successful one. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. And we will have another more sessions with you in coming years, and with a meaningful lectures like now what we have. Thank you so much, sir, once again. And now this session is closed. Thank you, sir.